Hi guys, it's Angie with Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab. Today I'm going to make 3 spirals and I'm going to dye them in the muck. But instead of making them exactly alike, I'm going to apply the dye a little bit differently. So I've prepped the shirts the way I normally do, and I'm going to go ahead and spiral all 3 of them and place the spiral in about the same area on each shirt. If you notice any of the yellow discolored areas on these shirts, that's from a pair of shorts that I soaked in the same soda ash container. I think that the soda ash reacted with the elastic in the shorts and caused these areas. However, it'll go ahead and wash out once the shirts are dyed. Okay, so I'm going to use all the same colors on these 3 shirts, but I'm going to apply the dye a little bit differently to each one. All of the colors that I'm using are Dharma Trading Company colors. I'm using blueberry, turquoise, peacock blue, baby blue, Grecian sea, and glacier blue. I've started by placing all 3 of the shirts inside of a plastic tub or container. Then underneath each of the shirts, I'm going to add a little bit of powdered blueberry dye. For reference, one of the shirts is a medium, one is a large, and one is an extra large. And I'm applying the dye to the front of the shirt. For the first shirt, I'm going to use the blueberry and divide the shirt into 4 sections with a small line of blueberry in between each section. I'm adding some of the blueberry dye to the center portion, but I'm trying to go very light with the blueberry in the middle. In the first section, I'm adding turquoise, and then I'm going to add peacock blue in the section across from the turquoise. In the 2 remaining sections, I'm going to add Grecian sea and glacier blue. I'm also going to add a little bit of baby blue over the top of the glacier blue. For the next shirt, I'm going to apply the dye in stripes, and I'm starting with blueberry. On one side of the blueberry, I'm adding some turquoise. And on the other side, I'm adding peacock blue. I'm trying to separate the peacock and the turquoise blue because they're kind of close in color. Then I'm adding some Grecian sea, and glacier blue. And here again, I'm going to separate the glacier blue and the baby blue because they look very similar. I'm going to continue striping this shirt using these 6 colors. For the final shirt, I'd like to apply the dye in a V format. So using a washable marker, I'm going to divide the shirt into 4 sections. Then using the small end of my stainless steel spoon, I'm going to apply blueberry dye to these 4 lines that I just drew. Initially, I'm avoiding the middle, but I am going to add a little bit of blueberry into the center of the spiral. The two sections that are across from each other, I'm going to apply the dye in the same manner to those two areas. I'm starting by applying a line of turquoise right up next to the blueberry line. Followed by a line of glacier blue. Next, I'm using Grecian Sea. And a little bit of peacock blue right in the very end. On the other two sections, I'm starting with baby blue, followed by peacock blue, Grecian Sea, glacier blue, and a little bit of turquoise. Then I'm going to add an additional sprinkle of soda ash over the top of all the dye. Now I'm going to load on the ice, and I'm going to put almost an entire bag of ice on top of these shirts because I want to make sure they have plenty of muck to sit down in. If you don't know what muck is, it's the runoff from the melting ice and dye, and I'm just going to allow the shirts to sit in there for 24 hours. So this is what they looked like after the ice was almost melted, and then here's how they looked after the ice was completely melted. I let them sit and process in this muck for about 36 hours before I began rinsing them. To rinse the shirts, I took them to my utility sink and I rinsed them in cold water to rinse out any of the soda ash that was still left in the shirts. Then I warmed the water up to hot and continued rinsing them to rinse out any of the excess dye that didn't bond with the shirts. Sometimes different colors can be a little bit tougher to rinse out than others, and in this case, turquoise is one of those colors. So what I did was I went ahead and ran some really hot water down inside of my sink and added a little splash of Blue Dawn dish detergent into the water. Then I put the shirts down into the water and allowed them to soak. Once they'd soaked for a while and the water had cooled off, I changed out the water and continued the soaking process. I ended up soaking these shirts for about 24 hours before the water ended up being almost clear. Then I put the shirts into my washing machine along with a little bit of Dharma's textile detergent, and I washed them using a hot water cycle. And after the shirts were washed and dried, this is what they look like. Okay, so what do you guys think? I really like the color combination on these shirts, but let's look at all of them individually. I'm going to start off with the size large shirt, which was the very first shirt that I applied dye to. This is the one where I used the blueberry dye to divide the shirt into 4 equal sections, and then applied the dye to those 4 sections. I added quite a bit of blueberry to this shirt, so I have a lot of the purple right in the middle portion of the spiral. That's a color split that came out of that blueberry. Remember, I also added a little bit of the blueberry under the shirt, and you can see a few of the dark lines in the shirt, but that may not all be from the blueberry that I put under the shirt, part of it's from the muck that I allowed the shirt to process in. The muck will leave some darker areas in the shirt. That's one of the things I like about allowing a shirt to process in the muck. The next shirt that I applied the dye to is the extra large. And that's the one where I applied the dye in stripes. You can see that it does make a spiral in the shirt, but all of the lines don't go all the way into the spiral. This last shirt is the shirt that I drew the lines on the shirt and added the dye in a V pattern. This shirt is also the medium size shirt. And on this shirt, all of the colors of the spiral go into the middle, but the bands of color are very thin. Okay, so I've placed them all on a slide together so that you can see them all side by side. And they're in the order in which they were in the container. They're all spirals and I used all the same colors, but they do all have a different look to them. On the size large, the bands of color are pretty wide compared to the medium, which has really thin, ropey bands of color. There's something about the extra large that reminds me more of a wave than a spiral. I think it may be the dark bands of the blueberry in the shirt, how they kind of go around but not totally go into the middle of the spiral. When I look at the photos of the front of the shirts compared to the photos of the back of the shirts, you can definitely see some more of the darker lines in the back of the shirt. And here again, that may have come from the blueberry, but it's probably a combination of both the blueberry dye and the muck that the shirt sat in. So I really like the way all three of these shirts turned out. But what about you? Do you have one that stands out more for you or that you like better, that you think is more your favorite? Drop me a comment down below and let me know. And I sure would appreciate it if you've enjoyed the video, if you would like it and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.